Welcome to Conscious Village and Child, where we serve to support the self-awareness and conscious development of families. Hey everyone, it's been a while since I've recorded a video, but as I promised that I would record something regarding womb consciousness and womb health, I have written down a lot of information for you. This is information that has been pretty much, I've meditated and been able to journal. And so I have it here. And yesterday I had a gathering where a few of us gathered online and we talked a little bit about womb consciousness and womb healing in order to connect to our ancestry. So it was a really nice gathering, and I decided to just finish up the month of November recording this information for you all. So to start off with, let me give you a little bit of background of the womb. So the womb, whether it's physical or energetic, is sacred, right? And the womb is pretty much, the womb used to be revered a long time ago as the place which held us, the sacred waters, right? The sacred waters of creation. So when we talk about the universe and the mother and where life sprang or life originated from, we often talk about the waters of the mother, the eternal waters, right? And so the eternal waters from the womb of the eternal mother. And this space is the space where we can think of it as a chalice, right? A chalice that receives the living force of life itself. And this is where everything is created and has been created. And from that, right, life as we know it is born. So the womb is the safe space of life, right? And the universe, we can think of the universe as a womb that holds everything. It holds all of creation, all of the dimensions, multidimensionality, all times and space, right? All planes of existence are held within this womb, the sacred womb of the eternal mother. And we as human beings, we are a representation of that energy force. Or we can say that we, especially us feminine, right, we have the physical form of that womb, which is within our bodies. And then within that space, that sacred space, we have the uterus and the ovaries and the fallopian tubes and our cervix. And that is where life for us as women, right, is created in this time and space. But men also have this sacred space. Men have this space which is energetic. We all came from the sacred womb of the eternal mother. We were all created by a mother. But not only that, we were also created by a father, right? So we have the mother, the father, and then the child that is created. So us, for instance, and that creates the Trinity, right? You need those three forces in order to create life, or those two forces, the mother and the father, and then life comes from that. So the womb is the safe space of life. And the original womb and its sacred waters is where all of life was created. Like the sea, right, the ocean, it holds much nourishment for life. It is the lung of our body, meaning it is the lung of the vessel that carries it. So here on earth, right, the earth itself has the ocean, which surrounds it. We often hear the saying that the Amazon is the lung, right? The Amazon is the lung of the earth because that's where the jungle is. That's where there's so many species of life. There's so many plants, so many trees. But the ocean itself also works in a similar way with the ebb and flow of the waves. It could also be seen as the water, right? That purifies the earth. Without the ocean, without the sacred water of the ocean, there could not be any life here on earth. our amniotic fluid is salty, right? So we often hear about women having water births. Sometimes there are women that have births in the ocean itself. So the ocean water carries us, it supports us, and it holds a lot of nourishment. So we can look at that kind of microcosm, like in a way we can look at the earth as a representation of the bigger womb, right? The eternal womb. And within us, we hold a similar aspect. So the womb, when we are pregnant, holds amniotic fluid, and that amniotic fluid, it nourishes the child. So anyway, it is the energy center that receives all things that are created from within, right? So if the womb is the lung that gives life and gives breath to our body, what happens when the body has stored trauma, right? And I'm reading from my notes because through meditation, I was downloading this information, and I want to make sure that I am giving you the correct information that I received. So that trauma is stored in the womb from the specific areas of the bodies, or from there, sorry. So that trauma is stored in the womb, and from there, specific areas of the body are affected in our human, right? Our human body. Specific areas are affected, and our truth is distorted. And everything that is created from our distortion. So if we have distortion in our body, right, then everything that we create has the potentiality of being created with distortion. And so now what happens when we carry those distortions into our biology, into our children, right? Our children that we have now, or the children that we will have in the future. Well, those distortions have a tendency to show up in our lives. And sometimes we can see those distortions as chronic pain, illnesses, immune deficiencies, biological dysregulations, patterns in the biology that can be traced back to multiple generations within our ancestry and lineage, until someone in that lineage is born and is able to break those patterns of trauma or those patterns of illness that keep on repeating, right? And so those distortions, right, they are trapped in our cells. They are trapped in our fascia. And how is that possible? Well, if we believe that we were already existing in the womb of our mother when our grandmother was pregnant with our mother, and that our grandmother and our mother were already in the womb of the great-grandmother, right? Our great-grandmother, when our great-grandmother was pregnant with our grandmother, then technically, right, we can trace that back to multiple generations, and the ovaries already held all the possible ovums, right, eggs that could be impregnated, right, by sperm. And so all the cells were already in existence way before our mothers came to being. So if we believe that, and if we believe that we can pass transgenerational trauma, which actually has been proven scientifically, it has been proven by epigenetics, right? Then the experiences that our great-grandmothers and before them, and our grandmothers and our mother, and, you know, all of those experiences that they had, if during their pregnancy or during their life they had some sort of trauma, that trauma is stored in the body. And most of the time, the trauma that is passed down through epigenetics is actually stored in the womb and in the fascia. So there's a lot of information about that. But just to give you the gist, when our father and mother come together in union and they become pregnant, right? So the sperm connects to an egg, and then it's, it becomes an embryo. The plasma that is surrounding that first cell of creation is actually the fascia. And that fascia carries memory because it's made of water. Remember, when we are hydrated fully, we are made up of like 80% water, okay? And our body is comprised of fascia. And fascia is kind of like a spider web that connects all of our cells in our body. And it is something that pretty much gives information to all of our body, okay? And memories get trapped in the fascia. And so those memories get transferred to us when we are created. And then whatever is not resolved in our lifetime, we pass it on to our children when we have children. And that is how generational trauma is passed down from one generation to another. So oftentimes we hear that we carry memories, ancestral memories or ancestral traumas or patterns, right, of behavior, existence, etc., that are not even from our lifetime, but rather it's things that have kind of been passed down to us from previous generations. So what happens is that when one person, or let's say our mother, suffered an existential trauma, right, during her life, and she never resolved it, and it was stored in her body, it was stored in her fascia, it was stored in her memory, in her cells as memory, or she was pregnant with us and something happened, maybe, her pregnancy was not the most ideal pregnancy. Well, all those traumas get passed down to us, right? And then we are born having either chronic pain that maybe doesn't show up early on. I think I mentioned this earlier in one of my recordings, that oftentimes babies show signs of trauma and it shows up in multiple ways. Maybe you have a fussy baby, maybe there's a lot of colic, maybe there's a lot of issues with digestion and things of that sort. There's also talk about in pregnancy how they're determining that the health of the father also determines the health of the pregnancy. And so the responsibility of a conscious, healthy conception is not just determined on the mother, but it's also determined on the father. So both people have to be at their utmost health, right, in the moment of conception, so that we don't pass those generational traumas onto the unborn child and the life that we are creating. Anyway, so there's a lot of information about that, but I just wanted to put that out there. So all disorders and chronic illnesses are rooted in distortions of the DNA, trapped in unresolved trauma passed down from generation to generation. Every new person added or birthed through a lineage is the promise and hope of the entire family tree. So with every birth, there is the hope that one soul will undo the trauma and find resolve in order to liberate the whole family tree. In the end, the entire family tree is you. It's us, right? So you, before you were born, there's a belief that before we are born, we actually choose our lineage. We choose the family tree that we want to be born into, depending on the things that we want to work on in our lifetime. And so it is said that we are also, as much as we choose the lineage, we are also given permission to be birthed through that lineage. And so it's a kind of symbiotic creation, right? A symbiotic type of contract where one is birthed into a family tree with the hopes that you will liberate yourself, okay? Don't get this wrong. Not to carry burdens of ancestors that didn't resolve their issues. It is not your responsibility to work out their problems. That's not what this is about, okay? But it is about figuring out what your purpose in life, in this lifetime is, and what are the things that you came here to work out and to remember, right? Because when we are birthed into this life of existence, our memories, for the most part, for most of us humans, our memories are erased. There are some people who are actually birthed and they retain their memories, previous lifetimes that they had prior to this one. And that's why we have some children that will often remember certain things that maybe they didn't live here in this lifetime, but definitely they lived somewhere else. And there's a lot of evidence of that now. So it's not like I'm just talking, pulling things out of my hat. So anyway, so when we are born with the hope that we will liberate our family tree and that everyone will go back to their determined spot, right? So everyone belongs to a specific family tree and everyone has a specific role within that hierarchy of the family tree. Not hierarchy as in like from top down, inferiority and superiority, but rather from just like a lineage of order, right? To keep things in order, like who came before and who comes after. And so in the end, like I was saying, the family tree is you, because you are a representation of the people that came before you. In you, not only do you have perhaps the patterns or traumatic patterns and patterns of existence from your lineage, but you also have the gifts. You were gifted many, many gifts, and it's up to you to remember what those gifts are, to reroute yourself to your ancestry so that you can remember what your roots are. Where do you come from? What are the healing gifts that your lineage has that are innate in you and your DNA? And it's up to you if you want to awaken those and remember them so that you can help not just yourself and liberate yourself in this lifetime, but also in the moment that you liberate yourself, you are able to free past ancestors from anything that they didn't resolve, not because you're carrying their burden, okay? But because when you free yourself, remember, you are them in this moment, in the now. So you free them, and not only that, you free future generations. And even if you have children, you free your own children. And therefore, if they have children of their own, those children will not be carrying those burdens. Because sometimes I've heard often growing up as a child, oh, well, patterns skip a generation. So for instance, I can tell you that I'm not very much like my mom in many aspects, but I feel like I am so much like my grandmother, one of my grandmothers from my father's side. And I've always felt that as a child. And I look at my daughter, and my daughter is not a lot like me, but yet she has a lot of similarities, a lot of likes, and a lot of patterns similar to my mom. So it's quite interesting how those things do occur. And it's just very, minuscule what I'm sharing, just like surface level things, right? But it does happen. And anyway, so I just wanted to put that out there. So your ancestry and all close relatives are a mirror of all the things that you must try to heal and build awareness of. Okay, with awareness, we find liberation. And it's about bringing the unknown into our consciousness, discovering what's underneath the subconscious in order to make it conscious. So often in psychology, we have that image of the glacier, right? The glacier of consciousness, where about 90% is underwater. If I'm correct on that, I don't quite remember the numbers, but about 90% or so is underwater. And we can only see 10% above water. And that 10% is our consciousness, and everything else is our subconscious, the things that we don't realize we are carrying or we are holding. And so we must bring all of that unconsciousness into the consciousness in order to free it. We don't necessarily have to work it out and resolve it. It's just more of bringing that awareness that, oh, I have this pattern. And eventually those things sometimes just resolve on their own. So it's just bringing light to the shadow. Okay, it's another way of saying it. So this is why conscious awareness is so much talked about and why it's so important during this time in our lifetime. Okay, so how do we discover, right, the importance of the womb and perhaps what is hidden inside our womb, right? Going back to the womb. Well, this is kind of tricky. So one must want to discover one's own truth, which requires dedication, effort, and deep reflection. One must be willing to delve deep into the shadow side of oneself in order to find the pearls that are hidden within. Right? So oftentimes we may need the help of others to discover truths or patterns that we can't easily see for ourselves. And one way of going about this is through family constellations. Family constellations, if you haven't heard about it, is an amazing therapy technique that is often talked about nowadays. And I really highly recommend it, because family constellations really brings to the surface the things that are unworked, that are hidden in your lineages, right, from your mom's side and your father's side, and it brings it into the surface in a way that you can see it clearly through real imagery, through real action. And so it just resolves itself on its own once you bring that awareness forward. And sometimes there are things that you will find out that you couldn't even have imagined in a million years had happened in your lineage, right? Maybe there was murders, maybe there was ancestral, I don't know, some weird stuff like rapes, and I know it's heavy, but like weird secrets, you know, that you are not aware of, and that perhaps you're carrying that trauma and you're living that trauma and you don't even know where it's coming from. I mean, I could share a lot of experiences, personal experiences, but I'm not going to go there. Anyway, so another way is through constant or conscious meditation, right? When we meditate and we bring awareness to our body and we listen to what our body is saying, because remember, our cells are alive. Everything in us is alive. And so when we bring that awareness to our consciousness and we really listen intently, right, our body will speak to us, and our body will let us know through discomfort, tingling sensations. Maybe we hear like an internal voice, right? It will let us know what is there to be discovered, right, to be heard. And so we just need to want to do this. One of the things that comes to mind is really having energetic hygiene. Many of us have the tendency to say, well, I'm just sensitive, or I'm an empath and I feel what everyone else feels. If you're an empath or you relate to that, I can tell you that you are probably a sponge, and wherever you go, you're picking up information. You're picking up information from everywhere, from everyone and everything that's in your environment. And if you're an empath but do not do energetic hygiene, I can assure you that that's taking a toll on your body. That's taking a toll on your emotional health. And perhaps you're one of those people that goes out into the world and maybe has like, goes out with family, whatever, and you come home and you're completely exhausted. That is a sign that you have taken in energy that is not yours, and it's completely draining you. So you need to have energetic hygiene. And how do you have energetic hygiene? Well, you ground yourself. You connect your energy cord, your eternal energy cord, to the center and core of Mother Earth and to the central sun, as people call it. I like to call it the heart of eternal source, or just eternal source, or the eternal flame, which is the cosmos, right? And so you connect yourself, so you tether yourself to the earth. That way, anything that is not yours, that isn't of your being, is sent down to the ground, to the earth, where it is completely alchemized and transformed, right? And turned into something beautiful and beneficial for all of humanity and the world itself. And that way it doesn't stick to you, to your physical body, or to any of your energy bodies and energy field. And also, spiritual hygiene is extremely important because you want to be able to close any gaps, any openings, any cracks that you may have in your energy field. That is important, because otherwise you will be walking around this world being a magnet for all things that are dense and that you don't want in your body. Because eventually, when we have a lot of tears in our energy field, we will end up getting sick, right? Illness shows up in our energy field first before it enters our physical body. And so we want to make sure that our energy field is healthy so that we don't get sick. Anyway, I can talk about that a lot, and I'm not going to right now. So we can hear ourselves. So we can hear our womb, and we can also hear our fascia, or our fascia, speak to us, right? And so that's how we can connect to our body and be able to pretty much hear the messages that are stored. Remember earlier I said that our fascia is made up of water, right? The web that completely composes, that surrounds our body, right, is made up of water, and water holds memory. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Emoto from Japan. He's not alive anymore, but he studied water for a very long time, and right now the person that leads his foundation is Michiko Hayashi. And so, you know, they together worked on finding the secrets of water and how water holds memory. And so what you are listening to, what you are feeding your soul with, what you are, you know, the self-talk, the movies that you're watching, the news that you're listening to, the music that you're listening to, all of that is sending messages to you. So that is one way that our body holds memory. But also remember, I said that we also have ancestral memory that is passed down to us through our fascia, through our DNA, and through the health of both our mother and father, right, at preconception and during conception. And then also during the pregnancy. I mean, there's so many things that could go wrong, you know, during a pregnancy, and so much toxicity that now has been proven exists in the placenta, and how the health of a human being is determined by the health of the pregnancy and the toxicity levels that exist during the pregnancy. And I'm not just talking toxicity as chemical, I'm talking about environmental toxicity, emotional toxicity. So anyway, so those are some ways that we can connect to the womb, right? And there's exercises that we can do. I'm not going to do that right now. But there are, there's meditations that you can do to connect to your body. But one of the things, if we truly want to heal, one of the ways that we can do this is through somatic work, right? So that soma comes from the Greek word body. So somatic means of the body. So we want to bring awareness into our body so that we can free it from whatever is being stored in it, okay? And through somatic work, somatic movement, we can liberate the memories, right? The contractions that are stored in the fascia. We often talk about contraction and expansion, and we want to live in expansion. When we have too much contraction in our body, we feel tension, we feel pain. And so we want to liberate that contraction and expand it, right? We want to hydrate our fascia, and we want to exercise our fascia in order to liberate it, in order to liberate ourselves, and at the same time let go of those memories that are trapped in it. The other things that we can do are things like pranic movement, right? We can do Reiki, we can do pranic healing. There's a lot of different healing modalities that we can utilize to free our body of the memories that we no longer want to hold, of the things that we are holding from past ancestors that pass down to our DNA through our conception that we no longer want to hold. So once we bring awareness, we can release it. We don't have to hold it anymore. We can just release it, and we release it through different modalities. So Reiki, Pranic Healing, you can do massage, you can do uterine massages. Those are amazing. So you can do castor oil, you know, and rub your belly and really do circular motions with the intention of relieving that pain, relieving whatever's being held. Also, when we have trapped, one of the things I didn't say actually, and I should have said, and it's really important, is that our womb is the seed of all creation, right? I talked about the universal womb and how we are connected to it, but I didn't mention that our womb is actually the area where it's located, in the area that we have our sacral energy center. And the sacral energy center is the center that gives us access to all of our creational energy, right? So our creative energy. So we talk about the sexual energy, but it doesn't have to be intimate in that way. It's more, you know, sexual energy is creative energy. It is that energy force that allows us to create abundance in our life. And it's the energy force that pretty much brings all of our desires to life. And when we are blocked in that area of our body, this is why earlier I said that men also have a womb. It's just energetic, because we all have a sacral. We all have a sacral chakra, a sacral energy center, one of the many energy centers. We don't just have 7, we have more than that. And so if we are having difficulties getting pregnant, I don't want to get into that because that's pretty heavy, but if we're having difficulties with relationships, difficulties with abundance, difficulties with creating the lifestyle that we want, etc., then that means that there's something stuck in our womb. That means that there's something there that needs to be worked out, whether it's ancestral or whether it's from this lifetime, right? But most of the time it's ancestral patterns that we're holding. And so we free them. One of the techniques that I absolutely love using is earthing. I don't know if you have heard of Clint Ober, but Clint Ober is an amazing human being. His story is amazing. I love him. I love his stuff. I love his teachings. There's a movie. And anyway, earthing, which means grounding, barefoot, you know, grounding onto the earth. We don't do it enough. And so oftentimes our body gets ill because we are holding too much energy, excessive energy that is distorted. And so we want to liberate our body of that excess energy. It's been proven. There's been many studies done. And so simply what you do is you go outside and you walk or you sit on the bare ground without shoes for at least 30 minutes a day. Okay. You can do this in the morning. It's better if you do it right before you go to bed, or a little bit before you go to bed, so that at least you can have a very restful night. There's also a lot of technologies now, pads and things like that, that you can actually purchase through Clint Ober's website. Look it up, and I don't remember the name of his website, but if you look up earthing and Clint Ober, you might be able to connect it. And there's a lot of things that you can purchase that help people ground without needing to go outside. But the best medicine is to be connected to the earth. The other type of work that I love to do is steam baths. You could also, if you're a woman, you can do yoni baths or yoni steams, right? Which is you make a pot of herbs, special uterine herbs that help promote healing and mobility in the uterus, and you put it in, you let it steam, you let it steam in the pot. You sit in a little special chair and you cover yourself with a blanket and whatnot, and you sit. That's a yoni steam bath. But then you can also do a bath, right, where you put salts and herbs if you want to. Same way, you boil some herbs and you let them sit in the bath for about 20 to 30 minutes. Then you drain the water and you pour that water into your bath, and you take a bath for at least 20 to 30 minutes. And that is extremely healing, not only to your womb, but to all of your body. Plants are here to help us heal, okay? Plants have special properties that support us. plants are our medicine. And if we learn to communicate with plants, if we learn how to utilize them, they can seriously be a great support for our health and for our well-being and just our overall healing process. The other type of way that you can connect to your body and start to awaken those memories that are within you and what needs to heal and be let go of from your ancestry line is sun gazing. So sun gazing is really good, and you can do that in the morning, first thing when the sun comes up, or in the afternoon when the sun is going down. Okay, you want to do it in a safe way, so don't do it when the sun is fully up and super bright. You want to do it when the sun is kind of like reddish and it's going down. And you can do this for about 15 minutes. I've done it many times, and I can't tell you how beneficial it is for the body. It has actually helped kind of support my eye health, and I love it. I don't do it enough. I should do it more. I talked about belly oils, right? And rubbing and massaging. You could also do body massages. You can do acupuncture. There's a lot of different modalities to support your healing process. And herbal teas, right? Herbal teas that support the womb health and maybe your menstrual cycle, and also other sorts of plant medicine. So I especially like to do cacao. Cacao for me has been it has been heaven sent in a way that it has really helped me ground myself. It has allowed me access to a lot of ancestral memories that I had not been able to access prior to taking cacao. So cacao really helps to open up the heart center, and it's not your heart, your physical health, heart. It's the heart center, which is the fourth chakra, right? So 1, 2, 3, yeah, the fourth chakra. But also we have a center, which is the thymus, which is where the thyroid is, and that is the 8th chakra, and that is your higher heart. So the cacao medicine really supports being connected to these energy centers that allow us to see issues with a different perspective, right? With more compassion and more authentic, like in more authentic light and more unconditional love, not just for ourselves, but also for others. And in that, because it's such an ancient plant, right, that like for instance, my ancestry is connected to this plant, and so it has, for me, it has been a gift because it has allowed me to truly connect to my lineage, to my ancestry in such a way that it has been grounding. I can't explain it. It's just, for me, it's a wonderful medicine. Anyway, enough of that. So I wanted to share this information with you just to kind of give you a little glimpse into womb medicine and what it means to connect to your womb, therefore connect to your ancestry. And there's so much more information. There's a lot more, and I can honestly talk about this for a very long time, but I'm not going to do this now. I'm almost like at 40 minutes, and I don't want to make this recording any longer. Eventually, maybe I will do more recordings about other specific topics related to the womb, but for now, I think this is it. And all I wanted to say is that, to finish up, is that you have the power within yourself. You have your own medicine, right? You have all the answers that you could possibly need to all of the questions that you have within you. Everything is already inside of you. All you need to do is go inward. All you need is to have that desire to want to discover the truth that is held within your DNA, the truth that is held within your body, within your womb, within your fascia. And so, as long as you want to discover these truths, you can tap in. And there's different modalities, okay? There's many modalities. But the secret key is held within you. Because what works for me may not work for you, right? So everyone is unique, and no two people live the same life. No two people can have the same experiences. Therefore, you must want to discover the tools that will work for you and the secrets that are held within your body and your cells and your lineage. And once you have that desire, everything else just follows suit, okay? Because remember, the main objective is to bring awareness to our present moment. So you want to bring that awareness forward. Without awareness, no matter what type of modalities of healing you do, there's no true healing, because you must bring that awareness first in order to know what needs to be healed or be let go of. And once you have that awareness, then you can start that healing process. You're not going to heal everything right away, but you can start. You can start to walk your own journey, your own path, and then discover the things that work along the way, right? Because you are unique. You are an individual. You were born with gifts that pertain only to you. Though we all have similar gifts, but your gifts are unique to you. And so I hope that today this recording helps you, and whenever you listen to it, it doesn't matter. And so I am so grateful for your time and attention, and I look forward to making more recordings for you guys. And so I will be putting out more workshops, and hopefully you can connect with me then. And if you have any questions, you can just DM me through social media. You can find me with my name, Teresita Landin, on Facebook or Instagram. And you can write me there, and I can answer any questions that you may have. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you guys soon. See you later. Thank you.